Today was a good day at the market. The market rose over 1.3% just today. And if you compare how the week has performed and the last week as well, the market's just been like on a downfall. So in relative terms, today has been a really good day. A lot of stocks rose up. So let's have a look at how the markets performed for the entire day today and also look at the forecast for the rest of the week. So we'll start with analyzing the S&P 500, the Nasdaq futures, and look at the top gainers and losers for the day, and also look at how the world market's performing and any fundamental news that came out today as well. So let's start. So we'll start like we always do with the 5-minute of the S&P 500. So if you look at the 5-minute of the S&P 500, the market's held its ground on the 200-day moving average line. So that's a good sign. That seems to be that the market seems to be respecting an upward trend. But now to give you a better picture and also to tell you why the market's kind of on a standstill right now, this is what will tell you more. So what I've zoomed into now is the 4-hour time frame on the S&P 500 futures. So if you look at the S&P 500, so this is the few last candlesticks that we can see here. And what's above it is the 50-day moving average line. And that's playing a big resistance line to preventing the market from moving upwards. So that once it breaks the 50-period moving average line, you would see upward momentum to the 200-day moving average line. And again, just like we saw in the past, where the market touched the 200-day moving average line and then bounced back, and that's where we saw almost a 2 or 3 day decline. That could be expected as well. But for now, this is something that we need to keep an eye on. And if I was to just give you a rough number, it's around the 4467. So you can see the market's trying to touch or play around or test this region a lot. And the buyers are cautious not to overextend or overbuy into this right now, because the market could easily rally and go, not rally, but in the actually go down if it touches the 50-period moving line and then just kind of go on a downward decline. So the market's cautious right now. They have taken the upward trend into consideration, but since the last 3 candles or 4 candles, so that's probably the 12 hours since the big rally that we saw up, the market's kind of being cautious right now. Now, to give you a little better picture, let's look at the daily time frame. Now, if you look at the daily time frame, this tells you what prevented the market from just going down further. So I'm just going to zoom in so you get a better view of this. So the market, this was the 2-day decline that we saw, and the market touched the 200-day moving average line. So the blue line is always the 200-day on any of the charts that I would teach you about. So the market did touch the 200-period moving average. It then established a base on the 200-period moving average and then decided to go up. So that means the market has decided to respect the 200-period moving average. So there's not a lot of downward momentum right now in the stock as well, technically speaking. Now, something to support the technical analysis that we saw today, which caused the upward momentum, is there is still talks between Russia and Ukraine, and the US is heavily involved with that. So there is no further tension that got risen today. Now, if tomorrow there is a new news that comes out that there is going to be a war between Ukraine and Russia, you'll see the market tying down to lower lows that you've never seen before. So that's the reason between why I would say that the market is very cautious right now, and it's respecting, and it's kind of not sure. It's very indecisive on how the market's going to progress. So right now it's kind of hovering. This is just the aftermarket trending right now. So it's kind of just gasping for air because of the huge rally up. But more to come tomorrow. What I do foresee is that if it breaks the 4-hour time frame, there could be good positive momentum up to the 200-period moving average, or it may just kind of dilly-dally. There are also times where it may just go up and then go back down. So it's something to keep in mind. Just don't hit all the buys as soon as the market crosses the 50-period moving average. Let's quickly look at the weekly charts, and this is something that I personally love looking at as well, especially if you're a long-term trader, long-term investor. This is a good chart to get you into a better perspective and not just get confused with all the like ups and downs that happen with the market. So if you look at the weekly chart too, like the market's holding a good base around the 4387 mark. So it's just kind of like touching it on an intra week level, but seems to be holding strong. So that's a good sign. And time will tell, like if the market decides to move up, or it's just going to kind of like be choppy around this area, this range, like it did in the previous instance where it rallied up and then it kind of like hovered around and then it came down. So more to come on that. Let's quickly look at the Nasdaq and see how the Nasdaq futures have performed. So this is the Nasdaq futures on the 4-hour time frame, and as you can see, very similar to the S&P 500, it has touched the 50-period moving line, and it's kind of like decided, I'm going to just wait here and see what's going to happen. Like, let's see if there is any more news about Russia and Ukraine. And if the news is positive, you'll see a huge spike up, because the market's like tanked a lot, especially the Nasdaq. Technology sector has gone down the most. But what causes that, or what will be the aftermath of that, is the technology sector will rise the most too, because there's a lot more positive momentum and a push to get these stocks back up, because they are the highest volume in terms of the S&P and the Nasdaq. So I do like pay close attention to how the market reacts to the 50-period moving average line. If it breaks it, that's a good sign too. Let's look at the daily charts too of the Nasdaq 100. And as you can see, like it's kind of fairly choppy. It's gone up a day, and like it's gone up significantly, which is good today. And time will tell like how it reacts to. Now, if you look at this chart and you tell me like, is this actually looking like an upward trend? No, it isn't. Like the market seems to be like more on a downside trend on a daily perspective. But on a weekly perspective, it does seem to be like, oh, it's kind of resting. It's on a period of consolidation. So that's some good news. Now, the 50-period moving average line on the weekly chart of the Nasdaq is important. As you can see here, it's kind of like almost at the tail end of like, kind of breaking below it. And if it breaks below it, that's a bad sign. Like it did break here in the previous candle, like last week's chart. So that's a sign of like weakness. But as long as it's like touching the 50-period moving average line, that's still like, you'd still have hope that the technology sector is not going to go into like a downward spiral. So I do not think that the technology sector or the market's ending for a downtrend, especially with everything opening up. Inflation is going to play a big role into how the market reacts, but I do not think that inflation is going to drag the market down when everything's opening up, and there's going to be more growth in all these different sectors that have been kind of like confined because of restrictions and all these other like things that have come out because of the COVID pandemic. So with that, let's look at the top performing stocks and see how these individual stocks perform today. So the top gainers for today in terms of the entire sector, all the sectors of the market, was technology, and technology went up. And the reason for that is because it had such a big decline over the past few weeks. That's the sector that's starving the most for growth. And the top gainer from the entire technology sector was Nvidia, and Nvidia grew up 9% today. So let's analyze Nvidia and see, is this a good time to buy into it, or is it a good time to just pause and wait? So we'll start with the daily time frame. As you can see, Nvidia did cross the 50-period moving average line. Now, in general terms, it's a good time to buy if the market closes over the 50-period moving average line and on a daily time frame, and that seems to indicate that the market seems to heading in the upper direction, and like it's a good time to buy a stock. Now, this is something that was predicted in the past too, where Nvidia closed over the 50-period moving average line. So a lot of buyers decided to go into the market. But the markets have evolved in time, where the markets do not just go ahead and be like, it's touched the 50-period moving average, it's time to go ahead and invest your money into it. There's a lot of time the markets correct itself after touching the 50-period moving average line. So the new trend of traders that have evolved from these kind of like shifts in the market now decide to probably wait until the second candle. So if this is the daily time frame, if the next candle was to like open above it, and then it would trend higher from there, and that's a good time you could then step into like any particular stock, not just Nvidia. Now, one of the reasons why Nvidia seems to be growing so much is the earnings that seem to be coming out in the next couple days. So the earnings is scheduled for tomorrow, and the estimate is at 1.23. So let's look at what the technical analysis and the fundamental analysis mean or indicate for NVIDIA as well. So if I look at the earning estimates for NVIDIA, for the first quarter of 2022, it's supposed to beat the estimates by 0.09. So that's what's causing the upward momentum in NVIDIA, and we saw a 9% hike today. Now, I do expect that it's going to carry forward tomorrow as well, and maybe for a couple more days, while the market takes into account it's actually doing well for itself. Now, something to keep in mind is the forecasted outlook for the second quarter and third quarter. So it is supposed to continue beating estimates, and that's a good sign. So that means that if you invest your money now into NVIDIA, there is potential growth over the next couple of quarters as well. And you're always free to sell it anytime you feel like there's going to be a dip. So I would definitely recommend stepping into NVIDIA anytime you see a good opportunity to buy into a small dip. The next stock that we could look at is Tesla, that rose 5% today. And then Tesla is doing pretty well for itself. It's, as it's always on the news for some great achievement or a new growth prospects that they have. But if you look at the charts, it does tell us otherwise. It seems to be holding its ground, and this is the daily time frame for Tesla. And as you can see, it's holding its ground on the 200 period moving average. So my advice to you, even though it's risen up 5% in a day, is to just kind of be cautious, just wait on it for now. Because we want to see how does it actually break out of this range. You do not want to just put your money in and just let it sit there for another few weeks. If you look at the weekly charts too, it's been 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the fourth week where it's kind of stuck in a range around the 50 period moving average line. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to stick around there for a long time, but I would say a good time to get into it is when it breaks out of this range, and that's what you should keep an eye on. So maybe after it crosses the 20 period moving average on the weekly time frame, that's a good time to get into this. Another stock that did pretty well today was Micron Technology, and this is again in the technology sector. Now, I'm just looking quickly at the daily time frame, and as I can see, Micron's already up in its momentum to touching its previous high. So I would caution you from investing your money now. It may be too late in the game to put your money right now, because there's not too much of growth before there could possibly be another downturn, or there could be some consolidation while it tries to break up this huge resistance that has been built in Micron in around the early 2022. Another stock that rose up a lot was by 6% was AMD in the technology sector. Now, a lot of y'all may compare Intel and AMD as brother sisters. Around their growth prospects are pretty similar, but AMD's been the leader compared to Intel, where Intel's kind of in a stagnation phase right now. So AMD is trending on the 200 period moving average line on the daily chart. So I would consider just being cautious right now, maybe not step into it right away. Let's see some trend in the upward direction. So if you look at the weekly chart, it has come off its lows of 105 and it's been trending in the upward direction. So that's a good sign. That means that the market could probably bring AMD back up to its highs of 157. So maybe a good time to step into AMD is after this triangle is broken out. So it seems to will head higher from here, but maybe you'll just kind of wait until the 123, which is this particular resistance line is broken, and once it crosses the 20 period moving average. So that's when you could get your money into the market and maybe start small and then scale up once you have a positive outcome from your initial trade from there. Another stock that went up today by 2.5% was Apple. And let's look at Apple. This is the daily chart for Apple. So you can see a big jump because Apple went down a couple days and almost tanked to the bottom at 167. Now, it did not reach its lows of 159 that we saw a few weeks ago, but it did hold on to its 50 period moving average line. So let's look at a better picture at the weekly time frame, because it's very choppy with every day being an up and a down day. So if you look at Apple on the weekly time frame, it gives you a little slightly better picture. And as you can see, it's gone off its highs for the previous weeks that we've seen, and it's held its ground on the 20 period moving average line. So the 20 period moving average line for Apple seems to be a good support zone. So if you can buy anywhere close to the 20 period moving average line, that's a good buy. Now, Apple's never going to go bankrupt. It's one of the richest companies in the world. So you could buy it at any time and just like average your positions as time progresses as well. So I would say this is a very safe buy. You could always buy when it's low, and like you will always gain money in the long term. And because with a lot of products coming out from Apple too. So if you look at this week's performance of Apple's come out of its lows, and it does have like where did it end today was at 172, and the reason why it ended at 172 is this 3-line resistance that is formed here. Now, I do not feel that Apple's going to hold long to this resistance. It's not like something big. So I do feel like it'll break it out and like come out of its zone. It may consolidate for a few more weeks or so, but time will tell how that will perform. But my advice to you is that if you find a good low, a good buying opportunity in Apple, you could go ahead and like take a small position in it. The next stock that rose almost 4% today was CRM. Now, CRM did rise today for after a long time. But my advice to you is to stay away from CRM right now. It's been trending lower. Let me put up the weekly time frame, and this is what I was talking to you about. So don't get influenced by small daily gains. Always look at the big picture. So the weekly time frame will give you a better picture of like how the market's trending. So it's been going down since early 2022, almost like close to November, December of 2022. So it's one of the first stocks that started declining, and like the entire market followed. So it's a leader laggard, you could call it that way. So stay away from it. Let it show you a few weeks of like gains before you decide to invest your money. Don't bottom pick it. Maybe if you're really a bottom picker, go ahead and like pick it around the 196. So that's where it's heading, in my opinion. Correct me or write in the comments if it doesn't actually head lower. But I do feel it may touch the 200 period moving average very soon before it decides to resurrect itself from the grave. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed my analysis of a few stocks that I personally am trading as well right now. And I hope that this was helpful for you. Do let me know if there's any particular stock that you'd like me to cover, and I'll keep you updated to the rest of this week as well. So stay tuned and hope you have a good day. Thank you.